Is learning experiences supported by its strong community, whose decision-making is based in the best interest of all students. We are starting our night with our two new student representatives. With us here are Tess Perkins and Brendan Fenn. Both of them are seniors at Pomperaug High School. We welcome you to your first Board of Ed meeting. We are a friendly crowd, super friendly, nothing to be scared, right? Right, everyone? Right. So go ahead with your student report.
Good evening, board members, faculty, and community members. My name is Brendan Fenn. I'm a senior at Pomperaug High School. I'm honored to stand here today as one of the newly appointed student representatives. It's an incredible opportunity, and I'm excited to serve in this role. To start off with a little about me, I'm a captain of the boys varsity soccer high school team. I'm a member of the National Honor Society and the Math Honor Society. And I'm a vice president of the Pomperaug Investment Club. Once I graduate from Pomperaug, I'm planning on attending a four-year college, hoping to study finance. The first few weeks of the school year have been a positive experience. As many of you know, the first semester of your senior year can be a very stressful time. With finalizing college essays, continuing the application process, and exploring the senior experience. As seniors, we have a lot on our plates. Yet, with all of the stress, I feel the school has provided more than enough opportunities to support us. The Career Center is an excellent resource for guiding the application process, along with coordinating college visits. And I feel that these college visits serve as an excellent opportunity to meet and build relationships with various college admission reps throughout the country. Additionally, the 4 AP courses and 1 ECE course I'm taking this semester will not only provide me with a competitive transcript, but will also give me the tools I need to be successful at the next level. Pomperaug also has provided a space for leadership and service. Through the National Honor Society, there is an upcoming blood drive in partnership with the Red Cross organization. During this time, we are currently looking for student and faculty volunteers for this blood drive. And I just want to say thank you for your time, and I look forward to being the student liaison and providing a voice in this forum.
All right, good evening. My name is Tess Perkins. I am the other student body representative for the Board of Ed. I would like to say that this school year has had a great, very smooth start. I would definitely say so far there haven't necessarily been any bumps in the road at all. I am definitely looking forward to the upcoming events that we have. We have our first football game this Friday, which always has a great turnout. We have themes for every week that we have home games. So everyone necessarily dresses up, and it's just a lot of fun if you're not even watching the game, but it would be nice to be able to support our team as well. I am also class secretary for the senior class, so I'm looking forward to our continuation of event planning for this year. Right now, we're focusing on our senior trip. We're thinking instead of Six Flags, we're going to go somewhere called Holiday Hill, where we had senior trips in the past, but years ago. So we're thinking of bringing something back and trying something new again. We are also talking about semi-formal. We're moving that to January rather than November this year. So we'll have a wider range of chaperones available rather than having it the same week as ring dances. And we are focusing on senior shirts as well. So we're definitely getting prepped for the year. In terms of my school work, I have been taking APs this year. I'm taking AP Literature, Spanish, and US History. I'm taking these in preparation for college where I want to go for either special education or early childhood. So still deciding on that, but we are looking at applications, schools, and scholarships to apply for. And I also had my senior experience project done. That had been a great opportunity to go and shadow at an elementary school, actually with one of my old teachers. So it's nice to get back into it and kind of see what it would be like, other than working as camp counselor over the summer, to work with kids in more of a school environment, especially with the age range that I'm looking at. And on top of that, I would just say we've had a great start to the school year so far, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the senior events that we get to experience.
Great. Thank you so much. Any questions on their report tonight? Yep, go ahead, Heather.
Just want to say welcome. We're delighted to have you. I'm delighted to have you. Because Steve's not here and he usually brings it up, like I said. I just wanted to say, in addition to like the high school updates that we usually get, we do like to hear about what goes on in other schools in the region. Sensitive to, you guys have a lot on your plates. So I just wanted to say, if you get updates from, the other schools and you bring them here, we are totally okay with you like editing those to, the most most important points or whatnot. But I think that it's always nice to be able to hear from, what's going on in that region as well.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of our job here. We already talked to Dr. Jones and we came up with an email that will be sent out to all the principals at all the schools throughout the district. So we can hear from them and then report their points in the meeting to you guys.
Great. Right. Right. Thank you so much. And just FYI, at this point, when you conclude your report, you're welcome to leave. You don't have to stay for the whole time. We understand you have work and all their stuff to do. Our meetings are super exciting, so we understand if you want to stay and watch too. It's up to you, whatever you decide you would like to do. Okay. My nose is growing. We are excited. Bite your tongue, Heather. All right. Speaking of exciting, we have our back to school reopening report from Superintendent Smith.
That me.
Yep.
I would say that, other than the 1,000-year flood, like school was very smooth.
Bumps in the road. There was no bumps.
Right. Well, it's like the major potholes and fissures. I would want to express compassion to some of the families in our community that still remain impacted. I think for a lot of the town, it feels like normal. We still have families that are working through some real heartache and tragedy. We want to make sure that they know that we're still here to support them if they need anything. I'd also want to just give a warm thanks to all of the people of the community that came together and allowed us to open school. It took the efforts of a lot of people working really hard to make sure that our buses could run 2 weeks ago now. There are still transportation issues happening. There's still road closures as many experienced. And when we have major arteries, we don't typically bring our buses on the highway. We're doing that now, except the highway shut down or there's traffic there. So I just appreciate everybody's flexibility as we move through. As soon as we're able to restore bus runs, we have. And then you have kind of this unanticipated challenge for families because you've had a disrupted bus run for 2 weeks. You've kind of settled in and started getting used to that, and then it changes again. So we appreciate that people are working through that. That being said, from a student point of view and for most of our staff, school was normal and, it was very smooth. And I figure at some point we're going to stop saying the shadow of the pandemic, but we're kind of into a rhythm now. And summer was how it's supposed to be. And the work that happens during the summer was a little more extreme. And we did have a lot of construction projects that we'll talk a little bit about tonight and more in our next meeting. And then we do have a little video here that kind of gets you in the mood for school restart. So sort of mute whatever audio we have to so there's not. Just make sure to share it. Good. Thank you. Hold on a second. We share it with the public. And you have to make your audio.
Leaving all behind you, take me down.
So with that, I just say, bro, we're back.
Wow.
And that's my opening report.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Smith?
I have one question, and I know I really didn't have an opportunity to talk about it, but I think it's remarkable what the region was able to do given the circumstances. So, congratulations on an amazing opening. One of the things that struck me, right, is with SDM, there's a default setting in there on parent pickup versus bus. And I was just curious if there was at all an opportunity, given the challenges that you had with the bus routes, if the new parent default, I just was wondering if that would have helped ease, and is there any opportunity to streamline some of the bus routing if you know that certain families are always going to be parental drop off? I commend you, bus drivers, everything, but it just struck me, given some of the challenges within the community with roads, and maybe wouldn't have helped, maybe it's not a possibility, but it's just something I was thinking about.
So for this year, had we gone with the bus routes that we had planned that were on Thursday, the Thursday before school started, the SDM takes 24 hours to cycle through. And so when we worked over the weekend, we actually didn't get the new routes loaded up in SDM until Monday. Actually, appreciate the bus company. We had to kind of like jump the line and force that. And then the initial start of school, we don't think we can default to it, but right now that's happening. So if you haven't ridden the bus for 2 weeks, the bus company's actually going to give you a call and say, do you not need a run? And we're going to stop near your house and remove that, which will make the runs more efficient. And then for any family, if you choose not to have a bus run now, but something happens, you lose a car, life changes, you can call and we'll be able to add you like the next day and put that back in. We were actually having conversations of how many increments we do that in, because if it's a minute or two, that's one thing. But if your bus run changes by 10 or 15 minutes, that may cause families some lead time. So we're kind of having that conversation right now. But so we won't default to it, but we can start, actually, we're using school dismissal manager to see students that are picked up, because we know if they're picked up, so we can kind of filter by that. And then we're going to give a personal call to every family.
No,
So,
thanks. I commend you on everything that you're doing.
sure.
I just have a quick question, and it's not really specifically your responsibility, but like, is there an ETA like specifically on Old Waterbury Road, right? I think that's a big run for a lot of the community and buses going the highway and kind of all of that.
So family member might live on Old Waterbury, so I talk about it on a regular basis, and I grew up on Old Waterbury, so I know the road pretty well. That estimates, and don't totally quote me on this, but that's about a $15 million fix. And it's the culverts underneath and all of the irrigation at the bottom of the hill that were taken out. So the town is working on kind of it'll be staged in that there'll be a temporary fix that eases some traffic. But it's going to be a while before that's kind of returned. And it'll be built new. It's not going to be kind of restored. It'll be kind of built new, but.
Temporary fixes running buses.
Correct. So we anticipate not having we may be able to access more families on Old Waterbury between now and the next, I don't know, foreseeable future. But before we can fully run like a regular bus run that includes Old Waterbury is going to be a long time. We do see like weekly roads are repaired. You know, the area by Kettletown is starting to improve, but there's some significant damage over there. You know, the Old Waterbury and Bucks Hill are the main arteries that we use when not using the highway. And so, you know, Bucks Hill getting better. And that'll probably be finished before Old Waterbury, but it's not going to be soon.
Even at 4:30 this afternoon, I saw coming down Kettletown, FEMA and town officials out. So
It's the town, FEMA, the private contractors have been brought in, the public works. I mean, people really have responded, but some of the damage, you know, they've had multiple engineers. I guess the good news is we haven't had a town emergency management meeting in the last 3 or 4 days that the schools have been involved in. But we're a little kind of, right, some of my knowledge is a little out of date. But the FEMA people that have been in, and we have roads, I mean, they built roads in a weekend, you know, and they're brand new paved roads. They put in bridges, steel plates in areas that have made the roads passable, but, some areas are just really substantial.
Any questions or? All right, next we have approval of minutes. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of June 10th, 2024 regular meeting minutes? Thank you, Heather Dwyer. Do I have a second? Heather Rogers. Go ahead, Richard.
Before you get to this approval of minutes, the last two, August 8th and August 15th, for those, let's say, legal meetings, the reason I being questioned about it, the public was not invited to comment on either one of those. The public wasn't even invited.
So how about, right now we're talking about the June 10th meeting. Can we have a motion to approve that? And when we get to the,
Talking about the June 10th is fine.
okay, so then let's deal with the June 10th and then we'll get to the 8th and the 15th. I just want to stick with right now the motion to approve the June 10th regular meeting minutes. Okay, so I have Heather Dwyer move to approve them, Heather Rogers second. Any changes? Or questions or? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so the June 10th regular,
Sorry.
oh, you're abstaining, sorry.
Abstaining.
Got it. And Tom are abstaining, so we got Sharon and Tom abstaining. Okay, thank you. Right, so here is all set. So next, may I have a motion to approve the August 8th, 2024 special meeting of the Board of Education retreat? So moved. Thank you, Heather Dwyer. Second by Heather Rogers. All right, Richard, go ahead.
Like I said, public was not invited to the meeting. So is it a legitimate meeting?
So your question is whether it meets the requirements on the Freedom of Information Act. It was a public meeting. It was properly posted. The public was allowed to attend. There was not an opportunity for public comment, but that doesn't mean that's not it doesn't make it an illegal meeting. It was just a
Was
retreat.
allowed to attend the hotel meeting?
Correct. It was posted and anyone from the public could attend.
The public was allowed to attend the meeting with the computers.
It was posted that they could, there was like a way that you could click on it and be part of the meeting to watch. Yep. It was live streamed. Yep. Okay, any other questions?
I just have a comment. I was curious, one, if the agenda is posted for the meeting, for the town, with the details. And then, given the length of the meeting, I felt that the overall minutes didn't necessarily reflect some of the depth of some of the conversation. I'm not looking for a transcript, but I was wondering if this could be a distillation of some of the information that was shared for transparency purposes, if that could be posted to the minutes that have been submitted.
Presentations.
Yeah, distillation. I know maybe not everything, but
Okay, so we could have the slides that we saw. Is that what you're asking?
or distillation of
A
slides, whatever the superintendent feels is appropriate.
Okay. And the agenda was posted on the website, just to answer her question.
So the agenda, the posting of the time it started, it ended,
Right.
patient.
Okay, like any other
but
meeting,
not the
right?
Agenda that's given to.
That's okay. Right, so the details of what was being communicated, I don't think is necessarily was known.
You can take that part of the minutes.
Okay,
Thank you.
Yep.
Because, and I bring that up only because the minutes say the board discussed and collaborated on several agenda items. And while the public was invited, it's important to understand then what specifically was on.
got it. Okay, so we're gonna add a distillation of slides and the minutes. I'm sorry, the detailed agenda.
Will you do that as a separate posted agenda for the meeting and then?
We could post it, make it as part of the minutes, or does the board want it as a I guess the problem, the agenda was posted to the town, so they posted as a separate agenda now, like there's not a mechanism for that, like the agendas that we post are the same ones that are posted when the meeting's announced. That makes sense.
We can just put the one that was posted to the town on our website.
The one that was posted to the town is on our website.
Okay, but that's not an agenda with agenda items. It's just an announcement, a meeting announcement.
It was the broad agenda, the specific items of, kind of, the details of that day were handed out that morning. So we could put that as like. I don't know, we can think about that. I mean, because the town of, I mean, we can definitely make it part of the
Which
minutes.
to me, that actually, because of that, and I'm not challenging what was put out in the agenda, because it was a public meeting, this was disclosed. To me, then, some level of installation of what was discussed that correlates with those agenda topics becomes more relevant.
Right.
for Full transparency.
So it's just more of a mechanic piece, right? We could certainly post it as part of like with the presentation for that day.
Yeah.
If that works, if you wanted it as the agenda, I mean, I guess you can do that too. It's just not the agenda that was posted prior to the meeting. So,
Okay, so we're, right now on the table is a motion to approve the minutes. Ms. Addis asked if we could add a distillation of the slides and a detailed agenda. We'll add that to the minutes. Any other comments, questions?
So would that mean we don't approve them tonight? We wait until they
No,
are
we
amended?
could just say,
Right?
yeah, no, we just, we really don't need a motion for the minutes anyway, but we're just putting forth what Ms. Addis wants. Approve it as amended, right? That makes sense. Any other requested amendments? All right, so all those in favor? Aye. Any nays? Any abstentions? Tom abstains, Jeff abstains, yep. Richard, you're an abstention? Abstain, okay, Richard's abstention, so we have 3 abstentions. All right, next we have a motion for approval of the August 15th, 2024 special meeting of the Board of Education. Thank you, Heather Dwyer, second by Heather Rogers. Any questions or comments about that? All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? So we've got Tina Cavallo, Jeff abstaining, and Richard abstaining as well.
I
Okay.
lost my internet.
I'm sorry?
I lost my internet.
Oh, sorry.
I
about
lost
that.
everything.
Yeah. All right, next we have information and proposals, board committee reports, policy and curriculum committee, Ms. Heather Dwyer.
So, just before this meeting, we had a P&C where we had an opportunity to talk with department chairs about summer curriculum work. We did not quite have that discussion, so there will be a part 2 at the next P&C meeting. But definitely appreciate all our guests and all of the information we shared. You will see before you in this packet 2 policies that were moved forward by P&C at the last meeting of last year. And so they are here before you as a first read. I did have an opportunity to revisit Robert's rules today. And so I just want to clarify that at a first read, I will present the policy and explain the policy and what it is. And there is an opportunity to ask questions, clarifying questions about the policy. But any proposed amendments, we would handle at second read. So with that said, I do just want to introduce these 2 policies to you. And you will notice, perhaps reintroduce one of these policies here. The first one is 9160, which is student representation to the board. What we had done in last year, which is before we knew which student reps we would have this year, was to amend the policy to reflect the practice that we had last year, where we did have two student reps sit at the board at any given time, but there were actually 3 that rotated through. And so we just clarified that in policy that was, I think it had previously said that, only 2 representatives from the student body would be on the board, and just added that there may be three, but only two sitting on the board at any given time. So that is that policy.
I have a question. So we were two before, we had three last year. Why not keep it to two?
Well, the point is moot.
Yeah.
At now, but nevertheless, the policy was moved forward at the end of last year. So, certainly at our second read, if anybody has any, opinions about what we do with that policy now, we can discuss that. Are there any other questions about that policy? Yes, Richard.
Bylaws of the board, student rep. The last one, the student representative shall not be eligible to vote. Shouldn't read, it doesn't sound correct. Shouldn't it read the student representatives are not eligible to vote?
Shall is a legal term.
Oh, okay. That's what it is, that's okay. with me.
Yeah, I think, a lot of the policy that I bring to you is, very clearly written by lawyers. This one is not one of the sentences we changed in the policy, it was previously existing. But where we see shall in policy, is usually a, you could say it's equivalent to will. It's usually a fairly binding term. So that's where it comes from, yeah, but.
Basically, a legal way of doing it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Doesn't sound right.
It doesn't, yes, I will agree that not all the language that we see in policy is, as direct and forthright as I. All right, moving on then from student representation, we have our good old friend with 9326.1, taping and recording of board meetings. This was also reviewed, at the last meeting. Just because it's the first meeting of the year, because we hopefully have new viewership, watching our board meetings this year. I do just want to give you a bit of context if you would know. This policy, was last updated, in January 2024. We had revisited the policy because it had previously simply stated, in its first section that board meetings shall be recorded. Okay, finish. And in a strict interpretation of shall, that would mean that all board meetings, of any type should be recorded, or shall be recorded, as the read goes. We wanted, I would say P&C, took it up, to ensure that the policy reflected our current practice, which a strict reading would say it does not reflect, it did not at the time reflect our current practice. And so it was brought to P&C. We looked at it, as an opportunity to make that policy reflect more of what the current practice of the board was. There was a lot of back and forth. We had a hard time coming to consensus. And so the policy that came back in January to the board was a very simple change. It just changed shall. Those meetings shall be recorded to may. And that was what was moved forward. That is what is in our policy book at the moment. However, as the discussion of that policy, and this is a subjective read, I will say that. But having gone back and looked at those meetings, there were 9 members of the board in attendance at the time that the motion was made to put this policy forward. The commentary of the board, of the majority of members of the board who voted that day, seemed to reflect that although many members of the board felt that shall was very restrictive, and that there were possibly, exceptions to meetings that we would not necessarily record, that may was also not restrictive enough. And it was, possibly allowed an opening for us to, move away from our current practice in the direction of not recording as much. And so by my count, about 5 members of the board at that time seemed to agree that we should revisit the language at a later time to, more accurately reflect what our current practice was. So that is why I came back to PNC. That is what we attempted to do. Again, we had, you know, a harder time coming to a consensus. I did eventually ask for help from our legal team at Shipman and Goodwin to come up with a policy that reflected some of the discussions that we would have. With a few amendments that we later made in committee, that is what it told you. And so, you know, I would say that the top part, taping and recording of board meetings, is the substance of the changes to the policy. The part about recording devices is essentially the same as it was. Does anyone have any clarifying questions about the policy before you?
I was gonna say, I think it's really good. I think you did a great job. I like the way it goes out.
Thank you. Any others? I appreciate all of the asked. Thank you very much. That is all.
All right, next we have Finance and Facilities Committee, with Shannon Cavallo.
Start with. So the pension, right, so finance met on Wednesday, September 4th, but the pension committee met on Tuesday, September 3rd to discuss the June 30th investment balance. The yearly returns were 12.7% and the year-to-date returns are 7%. The committee also discussed and approved an updated investment policy statement to better align with overall investment objectives. So that's pension committee. Questions on that?
I just have one question.
I
Your
wasn't
finance
there.
chair, how does finance tie, I thought pension was a separate committee.
is.
So I get to clarify why the finance chair is giving the update on pension committee, just for our notification. We've never done it that way.
We never had it as a separate,
Steve and I were.
Yeah.
And Richard.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a separate committee and then
But you don't sit on it.
I don't even know what was like on there, so,
So Joe probably gave her.
Yep.
the
Yeah,
update.
I did.
yes.
Well, Richard can provide the update too. He's the chairman. Yeah.
Say, why isn't the
It's just-
Richard on the
it-
committee giving
back
an
in-
update?
Back in the day, prior finance chairs gave the update. That's,
Yeah, I think back in the day.
Suggestion for improvement to the process.
Actually concurred, but I don't have back in the day. I think
I just got confused.
back in the day, I
They're
think
probably
the
the same
finance
person.
chair, it was like everything.
Was everything.
yeah, I think the finance chair was also the pension. Yeah.
So that,
Steve wanted that included. That was something we talked about.
I think it's great to have the update. I'm just confused why it's coming from the finance department, so I don't have the back history. I'm only been here for 5 years.
And in your packet is also the quarterly investment update.
for that one. So we met at Mary St. Johnson Wednesday, September 4th to discuss both year-end close balance, which I'm sure Joe is going to talk about, as well as all the summer projects, where those stand, the timeline, everything that happened throughout the region. So it was a very good meeting from my perspective of reviewing everything, probably very stressful summer for Joe and Josh.
Yeah, approximately $230,000 some odd is our year-ending balance of the transfer account for the third fund. That goes up. It's unaudited right now. It's gonna audit as we speak. Summer projects,
I'll touch on it.
okay. We have 2 left, throw first. Close.
So you'll touch on it, so and the report. All right. Any other questions for Ms. Cavallo? All right, next we have P2 advisory, Ms. Sharon Addick.
So the PTO advisory met on September 5th. It was, I think, a great discussion and great meeting. Of course, there was a lot of discussion about the welcome back to the school year and associated logistics for the school PTOs. There was a lot of conversation about school opening, as well as activities for the year for the PTOs to start thinking about. There was a lot of gratitude that was provided from everyone in the room to multiple stakeholders, and a really significant big thank you to the bus drivers. I know you updated that in your superintendent report, but I think school couldn't have opened without them, and it was very clearly communicated to the PTO advisory how important our bus drivers are to school opening. There was also a discussion that continued from a conversation that started last year, specific to grant applications to help support standardizing the process to how grants can be provided to schools from the PTO. There was some conversation raised related to booster clubs and transparency of information, not only aligned within the booster clubs from the coaches, but also down to the parents. There was a discussion related to sports and athletics, specifically related to boys soccer. I'm not sure where that's landed as far as ongoing activities, but I know that's being discussed. I anticipate an update will be provided. And then there was also a conversation related to curricula and specifically some of the classes offered in English language. So it was, I thought, a great conversation. Our next meeting will be held October 10th.
Any questions?
I have a question. What was the, I don't know if you can share, what was the issue with soccer?
So, and I've not fact checked any of this,
No,
just
just
a
curious.
conversation, and Superintendent Smith can speak to this. But there was concern raised that there was a freshman boys soccer a coach hired. They moved forward with tryouts, but there's actually no freshman team, and that there's going to be a larger junior varsity team. So I think that people were looking for clarity over what the expectation is related to the coach, as well as the impact to the athletes. So I bring it up because I think it took up quite a lot of the discussion, and I could understand the impact to parents, to the community. But that was the issue. I'm not sure if there's an update or anything more you can add.
Yeah, so we've started to, it was the first I'd heard of it. It hasn't really been brought forward. We budgeted for 3 coaches, with the idea of having a JV freshman at a varsity. One of the challenges is we have one healthy goalie among those 3 teams right now. And building a team without a goalie versus whether or not we train a new student. So that is a conversation happening with the coach, the athletic director, and some of the players. But that's one of the kind of pinch points of trying to run teams.
So were there not enough students to field a freshman team, or were lacking a healthy goal?
I think we probably had enough students overall, but there's no kind of student that tried out to be going. So it would be a conversation of committee that's happening now.
All right, any other questions for, oh, I'm sorry.
Nope, you're good. So, and I know this comes up, both at the school and the PTO level, so I'm just wondering, right, I just want to put it on the table, because I hear a lot of complaints about it. I'm one of them, right, that we coordinate events on specific nights between PTOs and school events, so that both schools necessarily aren't having like a theater school, I would say, right? Like, so like PES and RMES shouldn't be having things on the same night, right? Whether it's PTO or school sponsored or whatever the situation is, so that a PS and an RMS parent or an MES and an MMS parent can't go. There was a lot of conflicts last year. So just want, like, I don't know if the PTO advisory, like, those are all the people that come together should like coordinate.
I feel like that was actually discussed in the June meeting last session. And that actually, I think because I'm looking, I know Marion gave the update on the 10th because I wasn't here, June 10th meeting. But I feel that because of the feedback that was heard and that there was opportunities when possible to try and make shifts, but I think they were looking very closely looking into this year to try and minimize any conflict. And I want to say that that was a topic in June. It may not satisfy everything, but I think that there was very conscious discussion of concerns similar to what you're sharing today and how that could be say improve, but just look at
Or
it.
even like also put it on it, like not all schools consistently put the events PTO with school on their
I was gonna
calendars.
say, I think that's where it came up,
So-
the school calendar.
So last spring, so.
Yeah.
It's always a work in progress, and I do think there are people that make a conscious effort. And in certain places, we do a better job than others, you know. There was a meeting last spring, so schools do put it on their calendar, but the tie-in between like the district calendar that shows up on the website, the school-specific calendars, when a school enters it, how they were labeling, so the example, one middle school might write middle school dance. Because Rochambeau, and I don't remember what school it was, so, you know, I'm not picking on anybody, but, Rochambeau put in middle school dance on a Friday night. But they put it to their calendar, so they didn't call it Rochambeau Middle School Dance. So like 2 students showed up to Memorial thinking there was a dance that night, because it just said middle school dance, right? I could have the school reversed, so we did kind of this, every time there's an error or some conflict, it's an opportunity to figure out why. So they met last year to talk about how we label things, how to kind of check the boxes so it shows up on multiple calendars. I do think like the big rocks, we do move pretty well. But when you get into some smaller type events, and certain parts of the year are just really compressed and you have, you know, April break, or you have some other, you know, where, there's kind of the, nationally, foreign language National Honor Society is gonna meet the same night as like an elementary string concert. You know, and even though we try to space things out, when you figure like the plays there and the stage is only available. So there are times where conflicts are maybe not completely unavoidable, but it's harder. Those are the meetings that the sooner we can put them on the calendar, weather events and things like that, make things compromised. The coordination between the PTO and the schools, like the schools, we have a lot of conversation, and so that relationship between the local school PTO and the building administrator or whoever, those are the kind of areas that we're looking to see, like, where's the most potential for us to not have this communication, and how do we make that like more routine? I do think the calendar committee group that met last spring did a lot of work on how do we make sure that we cross-pollinate the calendars. So while each school might be good at maintaining their calendar, that cross-pollination has to be kind of easy to do. If it's overly complicated, people aren't gonna do it, and then we're gonna get more conflict. So how do we make that process?
Everybody get on Cozy app. All the schools on Cozy app.
Well, if you go to the website and the district feed, like that's what we're trying to say, like this is the calendar. And you can subscribe to that, you can put that in your local calendar, and you can sync to the website. So we're trying to make that the place where all of our stuff shows up.
Any other questions for Ms. Abbott? Cool. All right, next, we're gonna have an update on the GSDS feasibility study. So Ms. Dwyer, Ms. Rogers, and Dr. Romano are the board members who are representing the board on the feasibility committee. They're gonna rotate their reports. Heather Rogers is the lucky one who's up tonight to give an update to the board on what's going on with the feasibility committee.
So the feasibility study committee has been reviewing the 9 proposals that we've received from the architectural firms and using a rubric to narrow our choices down to up to 4 companies. We will be meeting an executive session on Tuesday, September 24th, and plan to do interviews in mid-October. Board of Education members are welcome to attend the executive session on the 24th.
Where will it be held?
The meetings are held here in this room. 5 o'clock.
Yep.
It's 5.
Yep, there's a dinner. Yeah. Any other questions on the feasibility committee? Yeah, okay. Next, we have the superintendent's report, Superintendent Smith.
Again, so at the next board meeting, we're gonna do like a formal presentation on summer projects with photos and things like that. There are a couple things that I wanted to highlight for you in the meantime. The final installation of the stage lighting, I think started today, actually, they were scheduled to, I didn't actually see them here yet, but I mean, Wednesday, we're gonna start. And that should be done within the next 3 weeks. And then our culinary renovation, did see some delays over the summer that we anticipate in the next 2 weeks. The reason that those things are important are because stage lighting was supposed to happen a little earlier, which is why the culinary classes have been held onto the stage or held on the stage for the last 2 weeks. But now we're gonna have another 2 weeks where we can't have them on the stage because lighting's being installed, so culinary will be in a series of classrooms for the next 2 weeks. And then the curtain will be installed on the stage as well,
There's 20 feet short.
right?
the original.
Yeah, so once the curtain was delivered.
Yeah,
um,
with
it's
manufactured wrong.
20 feet short, not our error. That was a manufacturing error, so the new curtain will be delivered. So in 2 weeks, we'll give you kind of a breakdown of each of the projects and where they are. But we're gonna open the school year with the stage curtains for those of you that were able to attend convocation. You'll see that we have like the black curtains that are there, but that main red curtain that opens and closes was 20 feet short. So
So
we
Emory.
sent it back and they're making a new one, right? So we roll with it, right? And then again, we're hopeful that in the next 2 weeks, culinary will be, we have to get a new certificate of occupancy for that, so we can't move students in until it's complete. We're trying to get a way to move them in stages because the kind of classroom side will be done ahead of time. We're gonna have to wait until all of the equipment's in. And then the pool remains on schedule with one small hiccup. The ceiling has an acoustic mitigation system that's being fabricated. That's a custom built sound deadening system. That is significantly delayed. Like the good news is we're gonna open the pool without it. It's not gonna prevent us from opening the pool. Maybe a little loud in there for the first couple of months. We're working on a plan with the manufacturers and the installers so that even once the pool is kind of in use, kind of our initial conversation is we'll wait until just the end of the boys season and there'll be no more disruptions to the programs once we open them. And then next, this year, we're gonna work on a portrait of the graduate. We talked slightly about this at the retreat, but we didn't really get to it towards the end of the day. For those of you that were able to attend convocation, Dr. McEwen spoke for a few minutes about the process. She's gonna be here in next board meeting, do a little presentation to the board about that process. And then we will be developing a steering committee. So as you see information and as you listen to her next board meeting, if it's something that you might be interested in, we're probably looking at 2 members. As far as like meeting times and dates, those will be hopefully available when she's here next meeting. And then in your board packet tonight, you saw a draft of the 2025 meeting dates. We need to remember that meeting dates are published by calendar year, not school year. So the one you adopted last year goes through January of this year, it goes through the end of December of 2024. And what you have in front of you are the meeting dates starting in January for next calendar year. We'll adopt those in the next couple of weeks or a couple of meetings. But if there's any questions you have or thoughts or conflicts that you see on there that you should be aware of, please bring them to either myself or Chairman Enzo's attention.
Any questions for Mr. Smith?
Go ahead. Sorry. So the curtains, are they just gonna throw those out? Like, could we use them someplace else? 'Cause
They
they're
go
short.
back, we didn't actually pay for them, so they go back to the manufacturer. I'm sure if we bought them, you
I
know.
was like, great, love your repurpose, sorry, I was like, I love what they did with the locker bays, I'm just trying to think. And thank you for the calendar. as well.
Any other questions for Mr. Smith? Go ahead.
Yes, on next week's summer project or next meeting's summer project report. Do you anticipate going back through the budget and kind of showing us where we are in terms of our bond expenditures against what we have left?
Yes.
At that time, would you also be open to discussion about how to approach what's remaining or like some suggestions? And if now next week's not the right time, then in the future, but I am curious now as that money begins to dwindle. I know that the list of projects on the original list is still long. So I'd be curious to know what you see as priorities and what the path forward might be once we have an accounting of where we're at.
Yep. We'll do that.
Any other questions? for Mr. Smith? I have a question. I know you talked about this at finance, do you have a date that you think that the pool will be open? To settle some rumors that are going around our community.
So I don't know that it would be really smart for me to give you a date today. I think, end of October is where we're, looking to be again, barring any, unforeseen circumstances. Mr. Martino meets, I'd say weekly, but
Yeah.
I'd say probably more frequent than
Like
that.
that.
And we've been talking to the manufacturers, and installers in the pool. Kind of the good news for us is that, the pool installation itself, which is underway, is done by a very specific set of installers, that are purpose designed to do that. They have their own plans and structures. Once they're complete, the tile work, like we have control over the dial, so we can bring in extra crews, we can do overtime, we can, keep them here. As many of you have been on campus over the summer, they've been here at 6 a.m. The painters were here until 2 a.m. in the morning. Like, we have control over those things. Delivery schedules, we can't control, and kind of the actual, lining of the pool, we can't control. So once, everything's on site, and once we have the air handler on site, we have some control over that. So, with every week that goes by, we gain confidence in the timeline. But I just encourage everybody to see the huge asterisk in that I can't control what we don't know about. But we're very, very conscious of the timeline and have frequent meetings. And so far, we're in a place that, 3 weeks from now, when we meet, like we'll have more confidence in the timeline. So I can probably speak to that a little more, at the next board meeting, but there are rumors of us like not opening until the end of the school year or January. I think they're based on fear. And when you talk to the contractors that are on the ground, our timeline is pretty solid.
For the acoustics though, what does significantly delayed mean for the acoustic system?
So I don't know that I can give you an exact answer. It's not in October, not in November, not in December.
Sometime in 2025, maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the conversation is that if we start the season, I'm not shutting the pool down so that we can install it, right? So like if there's a natural place, I don't know yet like how many days, they're gonna have to install some type of scaffolding to get up to the ceiling. And engineer basically a barge to float in the pool or to cross the pool in order to get to the area. So like when they're gonna install, it's not like a weekend job,
And my hope, what I was thinking too is if it's put in after, if that's part of the plan and it's originally done, or if it was something that would typically go in first. I just don't want it to damage a brand new pool.
No, they literally go in, they last in anyway, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, next we have board member comments.
I just have two. One is I can't say how big my smile was coming to this meeting and seeing those beautiful tennis courts and seeing two of them being used. I was like, lovely. They look so nice. I think it has changed the whole entrance into the campus. So I think that was such a huge win and just the aesthetics of the high school. Beautiful. I'm not here, all that much because my kids aren't in high school, but it was great to come up today and see that. And then the other feedback I just wanted to say is thank you so much for all of the improvements you made with parental drop off at the elementary school. I do not know if there were significant changes in Middlebury or at Deanfield, but I can tell you the impact it had on Pahrump was so positive. I feel like it's a really well-oiled machine very early in the school year. And a lot of people, I think, that at least have commented positively. I've heard they're like, oh, it's moving, right? So thank you, because I could imagine that would have been very challenging last year to get all those kids through the car line after the bell. And now with that 10-minute, however you want to call it, it was, I think, a game changer as far as getting kids to school on time. So thank you.
Plus, mine's been big on the 8:50 to 9 o'clock drop, so that's been good. And the elementary principals have been really good about figuring out the times and then make it work quicker.
And to be honest, safer, because it was very hard to turn back onto Main Street, left or right, without a police officer there in the morning. And now that traffic line, sometimes you go, there's no traffic light. Certainly there's traffic, right, people are waiting, but significant improvements. Thank you.
Any other comments? I do have a comment. I wanted to say thank you to Mr. Smith and Mr. Martino. You very humbly brushed over yourselves when you talked about the school opening and the Herculean undertaking that was done to have our schools get open on time. Given the, significant damage that Southbury sustained in our roads and houses and basements, it was devastating. And as someone who was able to witness, what you guys were going through with all the emergency meetings with the towns that you, there was a couple days when my mouth was on the floor thinking, how are we gonna move forward and have the school open at a reasonable time? And I know you guys worked really hard to have that happen. And I just very much appreciate you and everything that you did. I appreciate the board for giving the administration the space to do that. When I asked, direct the question to me, that's like big red flag that, we're in crisis situation. So I appreciate board members cooperating with that and giving Mr. Smith and Mr. Martino the space to deal with that. And just also a huge thank you to the town of Southbury, the Southbury Police, the emergency, Mr. Schnell, and Department of Public Works, everyone who made the schools open. We were so dependent on the town to have our schools open. Just very appreciative of the, round the clock effort that it took to make that happen. So thank you very much to both of you and to everyone else who helped us to have a successful opening of school. All right, next we have comments from citizens. Any citizens? No? All right. Amy says no. We have no regular business requiring board action. So next is announcement of future meetings. I left out from the agenda, I apologize. Tuesday, September 17th is a special meeting of the Board of Education at 6:30 at MIJ, where we're doing a continuation of our retreat to discuss board goals, which we did not get to at the retreat because we ran out of time. Monday, September 23rd, PNC meets at the High School Media Center at 6:30. Also on September 23rd, we have our regular Board of Ed meeting at 7:30. On Tuesday, September 24th is the PES-GS Feasibility Study Committee meeting that will be at the High School Media Center at 5 o'clock. And we're going to make that as a combined meeting so that the board and the feasibility committee can meet in executive session.
So any member, I believe how it'll work is it's a committee meeting of the feasibility study, and then any board member that wants to attend will be invited in.
Right, to the executive session. Okay. So board members are allowed to, but that's, only part of that's going to be a public meeting. The rest of that's going to be an executive session. Because we're going to be discussing the proposals that got sent to the board, and that's a sensitive topic and allowed to be in conducting executive sessions for board business and tracking. On Wednesday, October 2nd, we have a finance meeting at 12. May I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you, Heather. Do I have a second? Second. Thank you, Heather Dwyer. All those in favor? Aye. Any